Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
That's some bang.
I mean, if you're not a UFC fan, what exactly were you doing Saturday night that was more fun than UFC 316? Ken Flo's in Turkey on a Monday. Great to be with you. Monday, the 9th of June, the year's 2025. It's episode 554 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Today's episode is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. And Ken Flo's crown's going to look delicious here in about 48 hours. My man, what we doing there in Istanbul, Turkey? Is that where you are, in Istanbul?
I am. I'm in Istanbul. On Saturday night, I was on a flight, dude, dealing with some Wi-Fi issues, trying to watch the fights. I was a little stressing out a little bit. But, man, I enjoyed myself. It was awesome. Getting over here, gonna get some hair on the front of my head.
Well, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Flight is... Got me?
So... I'm catching a little delay. We did a Wi-Fi test about 30 minutes ago. And of course, as our producer says in the private chat, it tanks when we go live. But we're glad you have been able to watch all of the fights at this point in time. We're very excited about all you have coming up over the next few days. Lot to get into today. Coming up 30 minutes from now, live here on the DraftKings YouTube channel, we will be joined by the undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion, Merab Dvalishvili. We're going to obviously talk about this man extensively over the course of the next 2 hours today. Longo joins prior to that, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. We will also be joined by two other UFC 316 winners, Mario Bautista. Time prevented him from getting a microphone on pay-per-view. He gets one today on the Anik and Florian podcast. We will also be joined by Joshua Van, the budding flyweight contender, who is doing remarkable things at 23 years of age. So a lot of business to attend to today. And as we always say, the 14 pay-per-view recaps are the episodes that we are most excited to do, and we just hope that Ken Flo's Wi-Fi holds up, but it seems like it's pretty good right now. Let's get into it. Headlines brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Ken Flo, the undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion of the world, is Merab Dvalishvili. Wins the belt September 2024. He has now twice defended it successfully. First, Umar Nurmagomedov in a potential fight of the year, and now he submits Sean O'Malley with a north-south choke or ninja choke or machine choke, whatever you call it, we will defer to. But Merab Dvalishvili is the fucking man. All right, so I can do a fucking solo show, Cody. I'm not hearing Kenny, so maybe he can refresh and get on out of here, and I will wax poetic.
Yeah,
there he is. I just don't want to make it completely unlistenable for these people. So a lot of people felt as though this fight was going to be different. The rematch between Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili, they felt that maybe it would be a little bit more competitive than the first meeting. Now, Daniel Cormier would suggest to you that the first meeting wasn't particularly close, even if it was a 48-47 score. Merab's rounds in the Sphere fight were more dominant than Sean's, even if it was a 48-47. But so much was made of these wholesale changes for Sean O'Malley. Not going on social media, not smoking cannabis, void of distraction, torn labrum in the hip has been surgically repaired, surgery scheduled even before he fought Merab at Sphere, all these different things, right? And the result was even more one-sided, more decisive. You get a finish here. John Wood, my coach of the year for 2025, and I decide these things sometimes in June, so prophetic with his words pre-fight in terms of, you know, I guess in a broad sense, I would just say turning some of that fun into a finish. And Merab Dvalishvili had buckets of fun on Saturday night, but he vowed not to kiss the man or maybe showboat as much, and didn't take long for him to have that one potential moment to finish, and locks up a tremendous choke to get a finish and add to his already Hall of Fame legacy. Ken Flo, your thoughts on Merab?
Yeah, it was a beautiful ninja choke that he ended up finishing from the north-south position. Merab is an absolute animal. And again, it's like, how do you prepare for someone like that who is going to throw so many unorthodox techniques your way and is going to be relentless with how he feints, how he throws his punches, and how he gets in on those legs? So it was really tough for O'Malley, who just really could not adjust enough throughout that fight and to come to that pressure yet again. Merab did what I thought he was going to do, which was be even more comfortable in this rematch, and he executed beautifully.
So when a given fighter's title shot comes, it can come against a champion from any different style, right? But when Sean O'Malley was the champion, Kenny, there were a lot of bantamweight contenders who were salivating at the possibility of fighting him because they felt like stylistically it was a good matchup, right? Dominic Cruz felt like Merab would have been a great matchup for him. I'm not sure how many bantamweights actually feel like Dvalishvili is a good matchup for them at this point in time, right? Dricus du Plessis, a middleweight champion, a lot of people felt like the guy was maybe beatable. Well, best of luck, right? So if you, Kenny Florian, as a guy who's fought for a belt 3 times in the UFC, arrive at the title shot and Merab's the champion, right? What are you doing to beat him? Because I even think Corey Sandhagen, as he hits his honeymoon in Hawaii, is thinking like, fuck, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup for anyone in that division. I think if there's anyone who has a great shot, it's probably Umar Nurmagomedov, just based on his wrestling chops. However, even he had trouble. I think that Merab is the Khabib Nurmagomedov of the 135-pound division. He continues to improve. His striking continues to get better. He's getting more experience. He's getting more confidence. And I've said this before, but all of those fights which led him getting that title shot has only made him tougher. He is anti-fragile as it gets. And I don't know, man, you're going to have to really get fresh training partners who can wrestle their ass off, who can push you. But you basically have to split each 5-minute round with 2.5 minutes. Have a fresh guy every 2.5 minutes coming at you, throwing a bunch of crazy shit, trying to take you down. That's what you got to deal with if you want to have any chance of beating someone like Merab Dvalishvili.
Sean O'Malley got outboxed. Right? Yeah. I mean, as far as the striking goes,
he
Kenny,
did.
Yeah.
He did, because a couple things. First of all, he was so worried about the takedowns that he was, trying to keep those hands low, trying to stop the takedown so much. And then he was getting hit. And then when he kept his hands high, Merab was getting in on those legs. So he was really in a big time dilemma. The other thing is, I think O'Malley was standing up a little bit too tall. He was standing up tall so he can move, so he could be on his bike and have the opportunity to be mobile. But the problem is, because he was upright a little bit, it was Merab that was landing a lot of those overhand rights and combinations off of Sean's striking. So Sean was actually getting countered, which actually just made it that much worse for O'Malley. So Merab's at the top of his game. Now, he's not the best, most technical striker by any means necessary, but he's effective. And that's what counts. When you're talking about L's and W's in this game, it's all about you being effective. And Merab was just more effective than O'Malley, despite not being as good of a striker on paper.
And it's a fight at the end of the day. It is a fight. In terms of Sean O'Malley's approach, a lot of lateral movement, maybe not as much forward motion as some talking heads and his fellow fighters would like, right? Not that they're suggestive that he should stand on a napkin in the center of the octagon, but I did talk as a talking head on the front end of this fight about him maybe taking more chances. And I know even Corey Sandhagen intimated after this fight that he sort of expected Sean O'Malley to do a little bit more of that. Any thoughts on O'Malley's approach, as short as the fight maybe was?
Yeah, I mean, when we did the breakdown, I thought O'Malley probably should have moved forward. I think that's when he found the most success in that first fight. Now, you can't just come forward for the sake of coming forward. You do have to do it behind your jab or behind some long-range weapons to establish that range and push Merab to the outside. But we really didn't see that stalking like nature from him. I was expecting a little bit more of that. And then once Merab established himself, Merab just started backing him up, and O'Malley just seemed to be lost and out of his rhythm in that fight. Even in round 2, where he was a little more successful, it was still Merab kind of leading the dance, pushing him backwards. And I don't think O'Malley is as comfortable against a high-level grappler, as he has been going backwards against some really high-level strikers. So it was tough. It was a really tough approach for him. That just allows Merab in the game way too much, in my opinion.
There are so many different angles on both of these athletes in the main event, right? And we probably deserve to spend 45 minutes or so on KAYLA Harrison and Amanda Nunes and everything else, right? But as far as Merab Dvalishvili and there not being any comps for him in mixed martial arts, and I said off the top of the pay-per-view, even his teammates, right? His new teammate, Gable Stevenson, sort of wondering aloud if Merab is a regular human being, right? There are Khabib Nurmagomedov parallels to be drawn, but just in terms of the overall pace and pressure and offense in your face, right? Corey Sandhagen's wrestling has improved leaps and bounds. And I think for a lot of us, it would be either Umar Nurmagomedov or Corey Sandhagen would be the guy that we would send in there in terms of the guys in the division right now to try to have somebody beat Merab Dvalishvili, right? Is Corey the guy for you that can get it done? And do you think maybe even as high as his fight IQ is that he's going to have to take some risks that, could result in him getting knocked out?
It's quite possible. I think that as far as the guy who doesn't have a wrestling background, I give him the best shot just based on his overall grappling skills. He has some very unusual techniques that he can apply against someone like Merab to maybe counter or attack on the counter when it comes to the submission game, just because of his exposure to guys like Ryan Hall, who has a very funky style and it can throw you off. So I think he's going to need every bit of that for sure. And his length sometimes can be a disadvantage. We saw that against O'Malley, where because you are so tall, it just allows Merab to get in on those legs. Now, in regards to the aggression aspect or being, taking risks, I think that knee down the middle, that flying knee down the middle is going to have to be approached at some point against Merab.
Yeah. Really, really well laid out. I do think this could be a fight in which that Ryan Hall connection ends up being a big thing for Corey Sandhagen. So a non-athlete like me sometimes talks in simplistic terms, right? But what about getting in triathlon type shape? I wonder what the Iron Lung Paul Felder would have to say about this, because even though, as Sean O'Malley said, right, an assault bike isn't going to get you in the shape to handle Merab. It's got to be wrestling. But Paul Felder came off the couch and went 5 rounds with Rafael Dos Anjos and cut 25 pounds in a blink, right? And he was able to withstand because he was essentially training for triathlon. So, I mean, if you're Corey Sandhagen, right, one of the hardest workers in the sport, right, he's running as we speak during his honeymoon in Hawaii, right? I know I probably sound like an amateur, but aren't you changing? Aren't you trying to get in the best possible shape of your life and really eliminating sugar and just literally, I don't know, man. At this point, I think it would look to even Corey Sandhagen like a really daunting task to beat this guy doing what we've been doing in 12 weeks time.
John, I don't think anybody has the answer just because no one has had the answer to deal with someone like a Merab Dvalishvili. I think certainly it's going to have to involve wrestling pressure and wrestling efficiency. However, I think that maybe even more important than the physical stress, I guess, or the physical conditioning might be the actual stress of having someone pressure you like that nonstop, of having you start in terrible positions and just putting an insane amount of stress on your body when it comes to your sparring. It's like, I'd maybe start rounds with Corey, be like, all right, dude, you're going to be on all fours, someone pounding away at you, trying to take your back and just pinning you up against the cage. That's where you're going to start every couple of minutes. Sorry, that this is the way it's going to go, man. And just having him try to get back to his feet, just doing a lot of unusual things that are very frustrating, because in order to deal with the physical stress, you're going to have to deal with the mental stress as well. Because I think a lot of people get tired from that mental stress of just having a Wolverine on you every 5 seconds.
Great point. Gosh, you're on fire in Turkey. Maybe you should do the show from Turkey every time if we can shore up the Wi-Fi. But even after the first 5 minutes, Kenny, there was a big exhale from Sean O'Malley and almost a wide-eyed look, and he realized success in the first round. And
Right.
if I'm reading body language and facial stuff, it's like, man, like, geez, man. And he's getting better, right? And it's like John Wood asks for a finish. He goes out and fucking gets one, you know? Anything for us before we sort of move to a different talking point in terms of the submission and the choke and the quick tap from Sean O'Malley, the pressure?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it was beautifully applied. I think at the very end, it seemed like more of a crank. Now, I don't want to speculate on, what O'Malley was feeling necessarily. First of all, it can feel like your neck is going to break. It could also have felt like it's not really choking me, but this might also be an excuse for me to get the hell away from this guy.
This man
pressuring me. Yeah, this man. So Merab is a beast, and whether it was an actual, crank of the neck or a choke, or whether it was O'Malley giving up ahead of time, I don't know. But I thought from the front, when O'Malley was on all fours, it was really, really tight. So he might have been dealing with the choke for a while, but also it could feel like your neck is going to break if it's at the right angle. So I'm not sure exactly what those things were, but I don't think Merab's pressure hurt either throughout that fight.
We will hopefully get a chance in about a quarter of an hour to talk to Merab Dvalishvili, and we can ask him a little bit about it. But John Wood certainly looking for more application of submissions in training, and the man gets it done. And all indications are it's going to be Corey Sandhagen. And I had a little bit of a private text with him to try to sort of fire him up. And he was like, can you imagine, after everything, the way it was laid out, if I actually didn't get the shot at this point in time? And I started writing him back to say, bro, it's happening now. Corey Sandhagen is the number one contender. And even Dana White, who shares fan enthusiasm for a rematch between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov, was probed about it at the post-fight press conference. Oh, before Corey? He said absolutely not. So Corey Sandhagen is going to be next. And to have a champion like Merab, Kenny, who is going to put this belt on the line every 3 months, it is a huge luxury. They had it with Volkanovski, and I guess you could say they have it with Volk again because he's trying to get back in there. Sometimes there are circumstances in the fight game that prevent champions from fighting every 3 months. But, dude, it's June 9th. Merab's trying to defend this belt 4 times in 2025. And a lot of people are saying Madison Square Garden. I mean, we might even get it prior to that. The UFC needs pay-per-view headliners. Just guys, a promoter's dream. And certainly prior to this fight, a lot of people would have said stylistically he ain't that. So,
yeah, I'm curious to see whether he can keep it up year after year after year. But if there's one guy who actually can, it is Merab Dvalishvili. The guy doesn't stop. And again, as a fighter, you do want to maximize your ability to make money. And he's on one, man. His momentum is insane.
All right, one day the UFC Hall of Fame is going to come calling for Ray Longo, who just continues to realize greatness in UFC corners, one of the best of all time. And my gosh, you look so good today. Like, your handsomeness just knows no bounds. You're like Benjamin Button agent in reverse. Congratulations, Raymond. Nothing makes us happier than seeing you win these championship fights. And you and John Wood celebrating together. It seems like there's a real kinship there. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And listening to you guys talk, he's a promoter's dream. He's a trainer's dream. He's a friend's dream. He's just a really good fucking dude, man. I think people are starting to realize that. And, look, he came out of that fight unmarked. So that's less than what he's doing in a normal day of sparring. Because that was less than what he did with Aljo
before the fight.
For the shakeout and for the freaking locker room. Now, I'm telling you, that's the only thing that I think could do something with Merab is that he gets injured before the fight. He's crazy. But the shit with Aljo was definitely tougher than the fight. So he's going to do. He could fight like that. I'm going to say 12 times a year. He'll just go. He'll just continue his training. He's not. He's a different cat, man. He's just totally different.
Yeah, the man is unbreakable. Ray, what's been the biggest change for you seeing him get ready for these fights, whether it's backstage and going out and executing from his first UFC fight to what you saw on Saturday night? What's been that biggest change?
I think the biggest change with everything, because obviously I'm not a part of the camps, but the backstage stuff has been going on, forever. He's nothing that hasn't changed. What's changed is his confidence. This guy is a perfect example of the saying, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I mean, they tried to kill him, and that's the difference in this fight. They tried to kill him with look at his resume, and he just get more confident. But Merab, he's thinking. He is a little more cerebral than you think. Not like cerebral like in the details, but cerebral in thinking about the fight, and what it means and all that stuff. But it didn't kill him, and now they got a problem. Whereas the other guy, stupid talented guy. I'm not knocking him off. Look, I could watch that guy hit pads every day. Right. You know what I mean? But when you're gifted shit the way he was, and you start to believe in it, and then you really have to fight somebody, it's a major problem. Like when I get my guys coming up, even like in the Ring of Combat back in the day, they all had tough fights. They weren't going to get to the UFC without a tough fight. Who the hell wants that? Then you find out, at the wrong time. You know what I mean? You want to find out before they make that big walk. And O'Malley obviously is super talented, but they did give him guys that are just going to stand in front of him, that weren't grapplers, that play into his game. And now you got a guy who's his wrestling, his MMA wrestling is just off the charts. And now what do? You're going to correct that in a couple of months, or you think you're going to bring Israel out of Sonya? Not a knock to Israel, but you're starting to do things that appear to make you look better, but they're not doing anything. There was an easy recipe for him. I don't know if they followed it, but that's the issue. I think that he was given certain things that just, they're not making you better. They might be making people money, but are you growing as a fighter? Is each fight testing you in a different area that you weren't tested before? I mean, look at the guys like Merab. Even though O'Malley's striking is very different, he did have to go in there with Jose Aldo. You know what I mean? And, look, Merab didn't get Jose Aldo down. He beat him against the cage, but, so it's not like he's unstoppable. You can't stop him. There's guys that have stopped his takedowns. They just can't do anything else. Then he moves to plan B.
Right.
So but to answer your first question, it's confidence. That's what I see. I see a guy that from his first fight to now is just a more confident guy. He always, like smart confidence, because he always had the desire to fight. You could see the Frankie Science fight. He was like the fucking Mad Hatter. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I'm saying this kid, in my mind, Kenny is 15-0. He 100% didn't lose the Science fight, and he didn't lose the Simone fight. And that was when he was a crazy person, jumping all over the place. Now he's relaxed, right? He's taking his time. His belief in himself can't be any higher. How can you listen when you're taking tough fights and you know that? Think of the confidence it gives you. You know what I mean? So, like if I would spar with a world champion kickboxer, then I go in with a normal guy. I'm going, well, I just spar. I mean, I got the experience with him. What is this guy going to do? And that's kind of what happened with him. He's got experience with a lot of different good guys.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, you don't even need us today. You just fucking ripped for 180 seconds. So I would at least like to address the Izzy thing, because that is really neither here nor there. He just sort of stopped in town. I do think Sean O'Malley did the right work, but your suggestion that O'Malley was manicured a little bit. It's fair, right? It's absolutely fair. He was not tested. Right.
I'm not knocking anybody.
He was not tested in the ways, say, a Dominic Cruz was en route to becoming the world champion, right? So we shouldn't necessarily be surprised, right? But I think the story is more that you have been a high-level mixed martial arts coach for a long time. And any of us, I've been covering the sport almost 20 years, since 2006, and I've never seen anything like Merab Dvalishvili. We used to joke that he should be opened up at time of his passing and be studied for science. And now I kind of feel like it actually needs to happen. And he says, no, it's just hard work. But dude, the way he's been hardened, the way his will has been forged, I feel like Corey Sandhagen's honeymoon is ruined.
No, I don't know about that, but
I just think mentally the challenge of preparing for someone like Merab is very daunting. I mean, I know that he'll
Yeah.
compartmentalize
I
his
think
honeymoon in the right way.
I think Corey Sandhagen's going to be a tougher fight than people think. I always like Corey from the beginning, and I think he's a great guy. I think he stands for the right stuff. But look, he's got to figure out a way to stop this guy, which is not going to, at this point, he's just like, again, if you don't separate him from consciousness, he's not stopping. He wasn't even stopping when Simone was choking the life out of him.
Well,
he was
right.
still moving his legs. Like, who the hell is doing that?
So
who the fuck is doing that?
I think for a lot of us, and Aljamain Sterling doesn't count, but if we had to send one bantamweight in there to try to beat KAYLA Harrison, it would probably have been Juliana Pena or Ketlin Vieira. If we have to send one bantamweight in there to beat Merab, I think a lot of us would send Corey Sandhagen in there or Umar Nurmagomedov in there, right? But what would you say to people who have suggested that a lot of the hard work and challenging matchups for Merab at 135 pounds are actually now in the rearview mirror, right?
Yeah.
The Umar rematch may come around, but Sean O'Malley is not easy to beat. That's a hard
100%.
matchup, and maybe he hasn't fought the right fight because Merab is just so difficult. Like, I thought Sean O'Malley after the first 5 minutes, Ray, his inner monologue was like, fuck, man, here we go again.
Yeah. I'd love to watch the fight back, because I'll tell you where I was coming from at the beginning. I thought, just because of all their antics, when the other guy's screaming out Merab's name, it's all like, there's a lot of parlor tricks. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I said, like, you asked me, I don't care. I don't care. They have no bearing on me. A lot of people get pissed off. Tip could call out whatever he wants to call.
Right.
I think it's all fair game, to be honest with you. But when you're doing stuff like that, you're prioritizing some bullshit over some substance. That's the way I look at it. Like, if you got to come down to that, you got to call the guy's name out, you think that's going to help your guy? Right.
Well, and in the co-main event, I'll tell you from my vantage point, Izzy Martinez, a new addition to the Juliana Pena corner. He replaced Bilal Muhammad for this fight.
Oh,
After
wow.
round one, he said to Julie, don't pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm just trying to fuck with KAYLA and bark out these commands. They got nothing to do with you. And I'm thinking, man,
Yeah. So how does that work out? Like, again, you see it with that. You got a beast in front of you. You think you're going to start barking out shit?
Just trying to mess with her?
It's going to affect KAYLA Harrison, who's an Olympic gold medalist. Really? She's been through the ringer already.
So,
John, when you said, who do you send in for KAYLA Harrison? What bantamweight? I thought you were going to say Merab. I thought that's where you were going. I go, wow.
I sort of sidestepped because leading into the Harrison Pena fight, I was sort of banging the drum that, hey, a lot of people would send Juliana Pena in there to beat KAYLA if Amanda Nunes is not available because she's just an absolute dog, even though skill for skill, they don't see it. I do think a lot of people would send Corey Sandhagen in there. And I do think that in a lot of respects, Corey is a mental giant. So I think that he'll handle a lot of this challenge pretty well. But, John Wood is bullish in terms of his confidence for this Sandhagen fight. And I understand why. I've never seen anything like what we are seeing, and his ability to have fun in fight is systematically insane. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, and John should be, he should be bullish on Merab, because, like, again, he is a coach's dream. Like, he gives you the confidence to even coach better, because he's so good at what he's doing. And I'll tell you, the beautiful thing when we're win, lose, or draw, he's so grounded, and he's got such humility that that's not going to even matter to him. Yeah, he's having the time of his life. If I know him the way I think I know him, this is icing on the cake at this point, man. He's booking, and he's the example of he really is an example of the American dream. And you got to love the guy. He does the right thing by everybody, and he'll always be that guy because of the way he was brought up.
So you mentioned that that Merab doesn't have a scratch on him, right?
I don't think
Sean O'Malley. No, he doesn't. Merab literally looks like he could compete.
Yeah. Oh, no, he'd go right back
actually in there. This weekend, right? It's only the weight, right? Like, if there was if they were going to pay him to fight for the featherweight title this weekend, he'd probably do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Sean O'Malley did have scratches on him, right? He got busted up in this fight as long as it lasted. I'm curious what you felt about Sean O'Malley's approach. There's some people who are levying criticism at Sean, suggesting just too much backward motion, lateral motion, should have been more of the stand on a napkin approach. And I know easier said than done. I'm just curious, as a striking guy yourself, what you thought of O'Malley's approach.
Look, what I was worried about in the fight was that he was going to kind of fight off his back foot and try to outpoint him. I thought those guys, like those type of guys, they're going to go back and look at a close round and go, man, if we could have just stayed on our feet another 40 seconds or did this, we could have stole the round. So there was either two things, and we went through it, and John said he was planned for both of them. He's either going to try to steal it like that, or he is going to go after him and try to knock him out. And I think he chose to do the first one. You know what I mean? And he, I don't know. The approach in the fight, I don't know what his. I'd love to know what he was training, like what he thought was going to be different by how he was trained. And in the fight, he looked like he was trying to do. He had a little success with getting out of a couple of takedowns, maybe, and he went back to the same stuff. The low right hand, probably looking to set up for the overhand, but Merab wasn't happening. He was going to keep moving. He was going to keep the distance until he wanted to shoot, disguise it. And he's getting very good at what he does, man. He's getting very, very good at what he does. Yeah. And he does hit hard. I'm not saying he's the cleanest striker. I think that's still a work in progress. I don't think anybody's going to, disagree with that. But his confidence level, like the guy's like a street fighter. You're not going to like punk him, and he's going to punch you in the face. Like, so it's going to be the same in the fight. I mean, I would think the longer O'Malley could get him to do those exchanges, maybe would have been to his advantage in the first fight. Now you got another you got the guy beat Umar. His confidence just keeps growing. What'd the other guy do? He did nothing. He didn't take a fight. He had a surgery. And, that was the only thing I wanted that, everybody liked. But I don't know if you guys remember when Roy Jones was losing to Tarver. He lost the first fight. And then the second fight, when the ref goes, any questions, Tarver goes to him, you got any excuses this time, Roy? We're good? And I wanted Merab to do that. I got Sean, any surgery scheduled after the fight? Your hip feels good? Let's do it. I really wanted him to do that in the worst way because, just to set the tone for like, I really don't give a fuck what you did or what operation you had. Who you brought in. Like, it's just.
No, and I like that hostility a little bit that I'm hearing from you and John Wood and Team Dvalishvili, right? John Wood in his Instagram post putting the word healthy in quotation marks, right? Because it does undercut the champion a little bit. And Sean O'Malley is not of the excuse-making type, right? This didn't come out until 7 months after the fact when he's doing all this media, right? But to have a hip surgery scheduled and to go into competition and the whole narrative over-promising and under-delivering and probably shouldn't have taken the Sphere fight, really, if that was the condition you were dealing with, it ain't going to matter, right? I mean, if these guys fought 10 times at this point in time, it just doesn't look to be a particularly competitive matchup. And I say that as, a friend of Sean's. So,
and with Merab, John, I was like, no fucking around this time. Don't do the fucking, the Taylor's thing. You get that motherfucker down, you make him pay. Like that, like you're at that point, you got to make a statement with the guy. Man, that was it, man. I mean, I just think, he tried to come up with a storyline. I don't know. Look, I hope, what I hope for O'Malley? I hope he doesn't go back to smoking weed. I hope he leads a clean lifestyle. I think the guy's really good, but he's got to really, I don't know what they're doing with him, but I think he's a super talented guy that, you need hard work to really get to the next level.
Listen, Ray, he fought better smoking weed, okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's the other. That, well, now he's going to look at that. That's why I say all the things that I don't know. I just think when you start, there's nobody that could save. You can't bring anybody into the corner that's going to really make a difference at this point. I don't think. You know what I mean? Like. I don't know.
Well, this just made Merab look that much better.
Yeah, 100%. It played out well.
That much better. It added to his legend, and it seemed like this was one of those fights that I think just made him that much more popular as well. I mean, the crowd was going nuts for him. That's what it seemed like. He's never been more popular.
He definitely got booed at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. What? Right, John? The other guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it
But
wasn't
not
even
after.
Kenny. It was actually kind of. I don't
In
know.
the beginning,
man.
yeah.
I was talking to Rubenstein about that. My guys just get fucking tortured. We went through the Aljo Jan thing. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
for the climate in the country that time, for them to be still cheering for Jan over the American guy is just mind-boggling to me. I don't get it. I really don't.
Hey, last laugh Longo's his name, right? Getting the last laugh across the fucking board. So I just can't think, and we do have to get to KAYLA Harrison. Merab Dvalishvili scheduled to join us any minute. We do have Joshua Van, by the way, coming up in about 20 minutes. So I will text Danny Rube and see what's going on. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that we can talk about, but I can't think of a man nor woman who is more deserving of the fortune. Forget the fame, which is overrated, but the fortune and the financial freedom and everything good that can be done with it for Merab Dvalishvili. It's just absolutely awesome, that he's going to just have this amazing life that he has built with hard work and doing everything the right way. And he's just such an easy human being to root for.
And John, and a kid that's overcome a lot of adversity a couple of times in his career. That's why I think I'll always have a bond with Merab. It could have been over before it started. So, was he one of the guys like a Weidman that walked in like that? No. But was he a hard worker from the day he walked in and the guy you wanted to see succeed?
Yeah.
Because of the way he worked, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now he's surpassing everybody, man. It's fucking crazy. It really is just crazy. And I got to, on that note, John, let me just say one thing. When I walked out and I saw Ally Quinter and Weidman in the front row, he was celebrating his son CJ's birthday. Happy birthday, CJ. When I saw those guys there, it really took me back to the old days when each of those guys, Aljo would fight, and Al would fight, Weidman screaming, and vice versa. Everybody, I don't know. I'm sentimental, and that's probably the only shit I got to hang on to these days. But not that these days. I take that back. But you know what I'm saying. But it was a really good feeling, and they got in the octagon. Yeah, it was. It just felt like the old. It felt like the old days, and I don't know. I hope everybody could appreciate that, man.
Good to have everybody with us live on the Anik and Florian podcast here on a Monday on YouTube. Thank you all for listening after the fact, wherever you ingest your podcast. Ray Longo Minute is live. Hopefully, we will be joined by the UFC's undisputed bantamweight champion here in the not-too-distant future, but it is early on in Las Vegas. That's why I hesitated in some part to spin it forward to KAYLA Harrison, but we got to get there.
No, but wait, Merab's in New York.
Oh, he's in New York. Okay, so no excuse. All right. So, KAYLA Harrison, Ken Flo, I'd like to start with you if I could. You covered a lot of her career with the PFL. She is now the undisputed UFC bantamweight champion and has as good a combat sports athlete resume, man or woman, of anyone of all time. And it dovetails with the Merab conversation. Seemingly couldn't happen to a better person.
KAYLA is so unique and so gifted herself. I mean, when you think about athleticism and size and strength, and then you combine that with the highest level of martial arts experience when it comes to her judo background and everything she did even before she got into the UFC when it comes to MMA, and she's had a lot of adversity along the way, similar to Merab. You build these unconquerable spirits, and KAYLA is certainly one of those. And she looked massive in the cage that night, and hit a Kimura with ease against Pena, who knows her way around the mat. She is no slouch on the mat, but KAYLA is just that good, that powerful, and made it look that easy. Her ability to control and take the fight where she wants it is very, very unique, man. And I think KAYLA's going to hold on to that belt for a little while. But I mean, we just had that announcement of Nunes wanting to come back, which was crazy. But I'm so impressed with KAYLA, man. She's amazing.
Absolute beast, John.
Ray, what do you have for us on KAYLA Harrison?
No, absolute beast. And I really like KAYLA Harrison. I like the way she conducts herself. Her fucking backstory is amazing.
Oh my God.
What she did with those kids. I mean, this is a really good human being who, man, you have to be happy for KAYLA Harrison. She's just she's a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? When you talk to her, you know, she's a normal person who's an animal when the octagon door closes. And that's the beauty. She doesn't walk around, you know, like crazy, like, you know, but when that door closes, man, she knows how to turn it on and turn it off when she walks out that door. That's one of the things I like about her. Every interaction I've ever had with her has been positive, and I feel the sincerity when I'm talking to her. No way. There he is. Merab.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
Wait, Merab, did you go to sleep yet or no? I heard Brooklyn was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I finally went 3 hours sleep. I just wake up.
Oh my God.
Well, we're going to let you get on with the rest of your day in about 10 minutes, but we are absolutely thrilled to have a few minutes with the still undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion, the machine, Merab Dvalishvili. We love you, brother. Congratulations. We were saying before you came on, I can't think of a guy that I'm more happy to realize this success for than you, whether it comes to the MMA or the financial freedom. You are such a great ambassador for our sport, and I think you feel the love from your fellow fighters, but there's just a lot of love out there for you, and you deserve every bit of it, brother.
Thank you so much, John. I heard everything. Yeah, it's hard to realize I'm living in my dream now. It's been crazy, but I guess it's our reality now.
I tell you, this is the first
Merab,
time.
you know,
wait, Kenny, this is the first time we see Merab when he's not. Yeah. His energy level isn't at a 12 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to see he's actually human. Yeah, absolutely. Merab, you know, Ray was talking about some of the adversity that you've experienced over the course of your career. I guess I'd be curious to know, like, what was the lowest point, you know, when you were training here in the States? What was maybe your lowest point where maybe you had some doubts as to whether you'd ever be a champion in the UFC? Did those doubts happen, and when was that?
Thank you, Kenny. First of all, respect. Thank you guys for having me here. Yeah, it was, I think first when I moved here, in United States to stay, and it was in New York, and when I realized it was even hard to find the MMA gym and find the MMA fights. It was so challenging until I find the Ray Longo's gym here in Long Island. And then when I find it, I was so happy that it was the real people, like real MMA people. They have a cage. They have MMA coach, MMA people. 1 year, I was just doing hitting bags, and then I had 4 amateur fights and two amateur kickboxing. I cannot even have MMA fights when I moved here. Yeah, it was 2012.
I feel like we lost the audio. Can you hear him?
No, I can't hear him.
Yeah. I wonder if a call is trying to come in or something.
Merab, I think you might be muted. We'll try to reconnect. So it's amazing to see the champion after the fact. Right?
But
like,
John, just think of this too in hindsight. Like when he walks in the gym, you got Iaquinta, you got Weidman, you got Aljo. You know, there was a time when we had, you know, when we were all together, you know, and they did their jiu-jitsu with Sarah. We had a really good system put in place. And you know, like you it wasn't going to be easy. If you went to Sarah's, you were probably going to get submitted 10 times. You know, he had great black belts on the mat. You came to this gym, you're probably going to get, you know, beat up a little bit. So
that's okay, champ.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, so when I start training with Sarah Longo team, I lost my first fight, and it was hard, but I know that, you know, it's okay. Like I'm like it's okay, one loss, no problem. And then next one I win, and I lost again, and that's where I realized that maybe I'm not good enough to continue MMA. and that was, yeah, like
Wow.
it was hard. Like I was 1-2 as a professional, and it was hard to believe yourself. And I was totally thinking to like quit MMA, just not worth it anymore. But thank God, I take some time off. But thank God, in this time when I take off, I realize I miss MMA, and that time I tell myself I don't care if I lose. I don't care if I'm not making money from MMA, and I actually spending money in MMA to stay. You know, I
Yeah,
love
right.
this sport. I want to continue. I don't care win or loss. I just want to keep doing this much as my body can do it. And then I came back after, and I win 6 straight, and magic happened. I go UFC.
Well, a lot of us believe you're 15-0
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
UFC, the undisputed UFC bantamweight
Yes,
champion,
bro.
Merab Dvalishvili. So when you went back to Georgia after you beat Sean the first time, or maybe after you beat Umar, the reaction was unbelievable. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when you go back to Georgia again. Are you going to go back there now before you defend the belt against Corey Sandhagen? What is the rest of the year going to be like?
Yes, I actually have a ticket already to Georgia. I'm going.
Oh, wow. And the real reason for us having Merab on today was to congratulate him, not to try to extract all sorts of technical stuff for the Sandhagen fight. So if we do get the return of the champion here,
and let me
I'm just going to
explain
congratulate
something.
him and
Let me
get him out
explain.
of here. Go ahead, Ray, quickly if
No,
you would. We got Josh Van coming up in 5.
Yeah, sorry about that. But let me tell you something. The 2 losses he's talking to about, one was to a guy, Daryl Mima, who was a fucking stud, who should have been in the UFC under any circumstance. I don't know how that didn't happen. And the other loss was to Ricky Bandejas, who actually out-wrestled. He out-wrestled Merab. So here's the thing, Kenny. He had tough fights. Those losses were against top-level guys when he had no experience. With Mima, he lost that fight for a variety of reasons, but he got stuck in the mount the last time. That's the last time that was going to happen, right? Then with Bandejas, when he got out-wrestled, that's when he really started working with Aljo, and Aljo tightened up his wrestling. And that, I'm telling you, the rest is history. But like he said, and most guys would have quit, like he's questioned himself. But then he ran off 6 straight, and he took that shot against Stotts, and we got him in the UFC. You know what I mean? And then again, first 2 fights he loses, he's 0-2. He's 0-2, Kenny, and I thought he should have been 2-0. So again, if you're the wrong person with the wrong mindset, you don't get to where Merab gets to. And this is what makes him tough. And this is the kinds of things I'm talking about that at the end of the day will define your character and where you go in life. And I got no problem. This guy is just, he's a special dude, man. Trust me.
Yeah, it's absolutely remarkable. And I guess if one guy doesn't get enough credit, it's probably Aljamain fucking Sterling.
Listen, I'll give him all the credit. That guy is the guy. Without Aljo, I'm going to say that probably wouldn't have been a Merab, and maybe vice versa. You know, they helped each other out, but that became a great. They became a great duo and great training partners, and Aljo really leveled him up with the wrestling because Aljo would give him fits with the wrestling, at least back in the day. But Rob, you're not getting a better mindset. He's what people should talk to him when they're having a rough time because he's been through it, and he's going to give you a very straightforward, honest, humble answer every single time.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you. If you want more from the Godfather, it's at Ray Longo MMA. We appreciate you battling through the technical difficulties with us today, Ray. And what else can be said, man? You know, Ray Longo, that contributor's wing of the UFC Hall of Fame's calling at some point, man. I mean, you know, it's like we said it 4 championship wins ago. So congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
And we look forward to another 30 minutes with you next Monday when we return our segment entitled Would You Rather?
Oh, wait! First of all, you have any? I was with Laura. I was with Laura Sanko, and she said she loves the Would You Rather. So if she likes it, go ahead, shoot away. I'm good for it.
Okay. All right. In 30 seconds, Ray, would you rather listen to an annoying laugh for a whole day or get tickled for 1 hour?
Wow. I think I'll take the annoying laugh because I think I'm used to it. That wouldn't be a problem for me. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, real quick, let me just say something about Aljo too, man, because
Go ahead.
he really deserves a lot of shine, and I wouldn't want to take that away from him. And John Wood, first off, Wood, fantastic job with Merab. Before that goes, Aljo, fantastic job with Merab. Aljo deserves that rematch with Sean O'Malley. I'm going to tell you something. I know Aljo really well. He did not want to fight that fight. I know that as a champion, you got to
shouldn't have happened.
But I'll be honest with you, what they did to that kid is criminal. I think
What's that fucking noise?
I think that's Kenny.
Oh, is that Kenny?
I think
sorry.
I think he's.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Ray.
He was opening up his bottle of hair gel. I'm not sure what the hell you doing over there.
What an asshole.
But anyway, I'm with you, Kenny. I'm dying to see the new Ken Flow.
Yeah. You're not getting that Sean O'Malley rematch, by the way. Breaking news.
I don't believe that.
There's no fucking way.
I believe that fight's going to happen.
You do?
Yeah, I believe the fight.
Well, money talks, but at 145 or what? Yeah.
Yeah, let him come up to 45.
No way is that happening.
Well, he said he wanted to go to 45.
So I don't think for Sean O'Malley to push the reset button on his career and move up makes sense. I mean, what's a harder matchup, Kenny, for Sean? Umar Nurmagomedov or the rematch with Aljamain Sterling, right? There are a lot of really intriguing big fights for Sean, but he's got a great frame for 35. He's added muscle to it. Fighting a monster grappler like Aljo at 45? I don't know. What's the upside for Sean, Ray?
Fairness?
Money?
Honesty? I don't know.
Yeah, well, right.
Fight the guy. Fight the guy when he actually, trains to fight you. I mean, I don't know. That should motivate, Aljo beats that guy 9 out of 10
times. Sense in the world, but competitively, right?
Well, then you know what? Then you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah. Well, hey, I could talk to you all day.
Are you throwing me off the show right now?
No, I mean, no, you can literally stay on until Joshua Van comes on. I just don't want to disrespect your time, but it is an interesting conversation when Aljo lays out a foundation for this fight. It makes all the sense in the world. The circumstances surrounding what happened at UFC 292 in Boston are a huge part of that result in the eyes of many, many fight fans, not just people who are tied to it as closely as you are.
No.
So yes, it would feel, but life's not fair. But yeah, that would feel like the fair fight, and that would make a shit ton of sense. And O'Malley doesn't have an obvious fight, but life's not fair. And I mean, I'll believe it when I see it if Sean signs on a dotted line for that one. Right, Kenny? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and before I leave, I just want to let me shout out Dan Lambert, man. I had a great time catching up with him, talking about the gym, man. I think he reassured me that things I'm doing are correct. So he's got a very blunt way of putting things. I love the guy. He's fucking great. But it was really good catching up with him. I'd love to go down there and visit with him sometime. Visit with everybody. You too, Joe. Oh shit, you're coming up here.
That's right. Well, it's a big weigh-in if the famed American Top Team owner, Dan Lambert, is there, and he was there for KAYLA Harrison. All right, Raymond, get the fuck out of here, my man. We love you. Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast, and we thank the Bantamweight champ, Merab Dvalishvili, for joining us amidst the technical difficulties. And you can imagine how many people are trying to get a piece of the man and get on his phone, but he did give us one particular gem there in terms of why individuals might go to the great nation of Colombia. All right. NBA Finals are here if you've been paying attention, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make this a Finals 2. Remember, here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA this season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. When you bet $5 only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right, back to Kayla Harrison if we could. And the performance was incredible. The Kimura was particularly vicious. It seemed like it would have been a super consequential decision for Juliana Pena to fight a second longer in terms of any damage. She was grabbing her arm after the fact. That was a scary, scary end to the fight. And Kayla Harrison said she was prepared for a hard 25. It was nice to hear Kayla Harrison's story get told, and a lot of people were not aware of what she had done for her family, right? She ended up adopting her sister, who has dealt with addictions, 2 kids, and that came because their grandmother, Kayla's mom, suffered a stroke and was not in a position to take care of those children. She then unexpectedly lost her husband. A lot of trauma even before that Kayla Harrison had to deal with. So to see her here in this position, already had financial freedom, but she wanted the UFC gold on the mantle. She now has it. Certainly, she's right there neck and neck with Henry Cejudo in terms of combat sports accomplishments in totality, marrying the Olympic gold with the UFC gold. But it is harrowing, Kenny, as we spin it forward, to hear her say to Joe Rogan, God gets the final pound off. I can't do it. And you know, you and Keith Florian have talked about you literally staring death in the face. And I don't know if this brings back PTSD for you in terms of hearing about them holding your brother back as you're trying to cut that final pound from 146 down to 145 pounds. But Kayla is not long for this. And the Amanda Nunes fight is going to happen at 135 pounds. And I think it might actually be Kayla Harrison's last cut. Win or lose. Maybe you do that fight twice if she loses. I think if Kayla Harrison beats Amanda Nunes, she's never going to weigh 135 pounds again as long as she lives. So Kayla Harrison's manager, my friend Ali Abdelaziz, was hoping that maybe Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes would fight at 145 pounds and then move back to 35. I had a chance to talk to Amanda Nunes on the post-fight show. She's a bantamweight. She moved up to featherweight to fight Chris Cyborg. And yes, the weight cut can be difficult for Amanda Nunes, and it's going to be challenging coming out of retirement if she is to fight as soon as, say, November. But Kayla Harrison wants to give Amanda as much time as she needs. I think what was most encouraging for me on the Amanda Nunes front, Kenny, she's not just coming back for one fight. You know, ideally she wins the fight, defends the title, and then she said she wants to stick around as long as her body will allow. I feel like Amanda Nunes needed a break. And if you're asking me right now, Kenny, and I know it's going to be a massive payday against Kayla Harrison, one of the biggest fights, men or women, that we can put together right now. But if you're asking me over under 3.5 more fights for Amanda Nunes, I actually think she's going to fight 4 more times or more based upon my interactions, the time spent with her this weekend. You know, she's back. Cody, can you check and see if Joshua Van's in the back? I just got a message from his public relations guy. And if he's been in the back for 20 minutes, I'm going to send that guy the biggest package of his fucking life. But I'm going to tell this guy maybe he had the wrong link. And there's Big Gun Brian Petrie. So I'd like to apologize to Joshua Van, who I think spent a quarter of an hour trying to get on the show. So fuck. And to Mario Bautista, who is going to join us. We're having tremendous StreamYard issues today. So we are going to talk to Mario hopefully later this week. But a huge win for Mario, 8 in a row. And before we spin this forward to UFC Fight Night, Buckley versus Usman, Kenny, I would like to get some thoughts on Mario's performance, because what an absolute beast, right? Like right before the fight was going to begin, Mario Bautista had this look in his eye that was like, dude, I've been bottling this up all week and I am about to make a man pay for it. He got off to an outstanding start and Patchy Mix was frozen thereafter.
Yeah, I recognize that look, John. I've had it myself where you feel like you've been disrespected and everybody's talking about your opponent and that maybe they forgot how good you are. That's what it looked like for Mario Bautista heading into that fight against Patchy Mix. And you know, Patchy came in. He was the guy who was the former world champion in another organization. He was the guy with all the submissions and finishes and all that stuff. But didn't matter to Mario Bautista, who went out there and fought a perfect game plan. Patchy really wasn't able to get into any sort of rhythm. Bautista was just on point from the get-go, showed that he was clearly the better, faster striker. And, you know, those shots to the body were nasty as well. I'm not sure I've seen as much activity to the body that I've seen from Mario Bautista. So he continued continues to get better, and that means he's going to be a bigger problem for everyone in that stacked bantamweight division.
Bri, a lot of handicappers and MMA bettors took an absolute bath in all of their bullishness on Patchy Mix, right? What were your thoughts on his performance and sort of his whole demeanor during fight week that was kind of a turn from some of the humility that I think a lot of his career has been rooted in?
Sure. Yeah, he was confident. And he was confident when I saw the embedded, he was confident in the grappling. He's like, look, you see how Batista's putting him against the cage. He's not going to do that against me. I'll submit him. I'll submit his coaches. I'm like, oh, this dude's going to take it to the ground. We're going to get some jiu-jitsu. He decided to stand. He really only went for one takedown. I'm not really sure what that was about. He kind of just maybe felt good on the feet. But when the first 3 minutes, when Batista was laying that right hand, right on the chin, and Patchy can take it, I went, oh, I'm losing this fight, because Batista was dialed in. And then what I loved is he switched stances, and at first Patchy was getting the better of him, but then he started laying that straight left hand, big left hands. I'm like, oh, this dude's got it from both sides of the hands, and cardio for days, and then just won it that win. And he was pissed that no one was talking about him. And then he didn't get an interview. And I don't know why Jersey was booing. That fight was electric to me. I love that fight. The crowd was amazing all night. Not sure why they booed that. But props to Mario Batista. He looked phenomenal in that fight, bro. He looked really good.
And it dovetailed, the performance did, with everything he said in our fighter meeting, right? He's like, I'm more dynamic. I'm going to be switching stances, you know, like, he said, I can't get in that front headlock, and I can't let him get on my back one time in the fight. And it didn't happen. And Mario Bautista's won 8 in a row at 135 pounds, which is absolutely insane. Maybe he gets a main event. I don't know. But we were trying to put a whole lot of respect on his name by booking him on the show today. Technical difficulties prevented that initiative, but hopefully we'll talk to Super Mario later in the week. Hey, Bri, I talked to John Crouch about a nickname for Mario Bautista, or what can we do to sort of get this kid some shine, right? Sure. And I guess there was a moment you'd probably remember in one of his fights where maybe he stuffed a takedown and he did something that sort of resembled Super Mario, but some people really don't like that Super Mario Bautista nickname. Somebody said menacing Mario Bautista in the Jon Anik app chat, which I don't know. But I feel like the kid needs something, right? If you suggest that Sean O'Malley has it and Mario Bautista maybe doesn't necessarily have that quality that just naturally maybe resonates with people, is it a nickname? Do we need the right fight, a main event? What do we do for Super Mario to get this kid going? Because in the octagon, he's a fucking stud.
I tell you what, John, I'm not just saying this because, you know, you came up with it. I love when a nickname's in front of the name, like Sugar Sean O'Malley, Super Mario. I mean, I grew up on the Mario Brothers. Why not? Menacing's a little too on the nose. Menacing, you might as well go get a fucking cage tattoo on your back, bro, right? Little too on the nose, but I like Super Mario a lot. And I just think people just need to, you know, they're upset about the Aldo fight. They need to rewatch the Patchy Mix fight and realize, like, this kid's going to be fighting top elite guys, and he's going to be winning as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he fights for the title early next year.
Kenny, you know what else he could do? He does that thing at the end of the fight, right? He matches up his arms with that Battle-Born tattoo, because one arm says battle, the other says born, because he's Nevada-born. How about throwing that on the fucking front end of your name? Battle-Born Mario Bautista. What do we think? Battle-Born?
I like that. I think we should put the damage tattoo on his chest. Right?
Well, that's just there you go. Yeah.
And that same font. You can put anything in that font. That's going to look phenomenal.
Badass, dude.
The Marauder, Mario Batista.
Right.
Yeah.
Just call Darren Elkins. Get the name.
Dude, who is your tattoo artist?
Right. Who did that electric font on your chest, bro? Yeah. I'm telling you, the Battle-Born Bautista's got a nice ring to it, and I think he would rather see a T-shirt of himself that said, like, Battle-Born as opposed to Super Mario in the plumber's outfit. But Mario, if you're listening, sorry about the technical difficulties. We'll talk to you later this week. Battle-Born! Buffer fucking from the rooftops. All right, I'm going to give you guys a chance to talk about some other performances very quickly before we spin it forward. Joshua Van over Bruno Silva. Azamat Murzakanov over Brenjison Ribeiro, or Chu Song Yu, face planting Jekka Saragi BP. You got 60 seconds or more. You can talk about anybody you like.
I mean, listen, I got it. As much as I love that knockout, that was one of the cleanest check hook knockouts I've ever seen. I got to talk about Joshua Van. This kid is 23. He came in the UFC with some hype. I've heard about him, and he's only getting better. He just tweeted he's got a fight signed already, like hopefully in Chicago where I'm there. But his boxing, his vision, his knowing when to pressure, when to pull out, like it's really fucking it's good. Almost perfect at a 23-year-old level, and he's starting to develop power. My complaint early in his career was he wasn't really noticing how to get guys out. He had a lot of guys hurt, but he let him off the hook. He's not letting people off the hook now. He's the real deal, and he really learned a lesson in that Charles Johnson fight where he stuck off the gas, slowed down a little bit, and then got clipped and got knocked out. I think this guy, sky's the limit as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, man. I was thoroughly impressed, and again, I'm driving the fan van on Joshua Van.
Yeah,
I like this kid a lot.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get a chance to say Joshua Van down by the river. By the way, I did for the beginning of the Q&A, Kenny. I walked out for the Q&A, and I'm a little bit unhinged, right? And one of my favorite rap songs of all time by Redman is called Jersey Yo. And it starts, once upon a time up in Jersey, yo, right? So I get out on the stage like a total lunatic. I'm about to intro Amanda Nunes and Corey Sandhagen. And I'm like, all right, I've always wanted to do this in a hot mic in New Jersey. The great Redman, of course, Newark, New Jersey's own. Once upon a time up in Jersey, yo. Complete fucking silence.
Oh, come on.
And so I was like, no. I was like, nobody. I was like, one guy's like, yeah, Redman. I'm like, oh man, no one. I was like, I'm that old. All right. Now joining me on stage. Fuck, man, that did not go well. Ken Flo, Azamat Murzakanov, man. Azamat Murzakanov, right? Like, I don't know how many more wins he needs, but yeah, BP's been nodding his head because he's been talking about this guy for a while. Like, you know, this is what you're supposed to do when there's like minus 700 next to your name, and he just keeps doing it.
Oh, you mean Stone Hands? Yeah, the guy's an absolute beast, man. You know, all these guys from that area, it's like they have that stoic approach where they're super quiet. They don't look like they're going to be that much of a threat. And this dude can throw hands with the best of them, man. Very explosive, very fast. He could wrestle his ass off. Dude's a problem, man. What a performance, man. I was really impressed and glad he was on my little parlay there.
All right, Brian, last thing from you before we get to the pronunciation of the week and spin this thing forward. So Jusong Yu, right? So there are so many people who I would classify as MMA experts 10 times my knowledge, right? So sometimes I let too much noise in when I'm watching film and getting ready to call a fight. So I'm watching Jusong Yu and Jekka Saragi. And yeah, Saragi hits like a truck, but I am reading a lot of sort of pre-fight predictions suggesting that Jusong Yu is going to grapple. And I'm watching film, and he looks like a poor man's Mauricio fucking Rufy. And I'm thinking, like, is he gonna box? So, I mean, when you're watching film and you're getting ready for a fight, like, how convicted do you need to stay in your own opinions, and how much of that outside noise are you letting in?
I listen to everything after I'm done making my pick. So I listened to like 3 really good podcasts, and I really like this guys. That's after I've already done all my stuff because I don't want to repeat. I want to have come original with my own reads and everything. But for that, yeah, I mean, Yu is a judo-based guy. He's got some judo. He's got some wrestling, but he's also got some really good Conor McGregor-esque Marcia Hufi style boxing with the long arms. He stays loose. So I figured he was going to box in this fight for sure. I did not obviously predict the knockout like he was, but he's smooth on the feet, man. He moves out of the way and he counters very well. And yeah, one of the best left hook knockouts I've ever seen him. He used, Jaka's, his whole power was Jaka coming forward. And it was just a picture perfect check left hook, man. It was awesome. I jumped out of my seat. My kids felt like I saw a bug. I'm like freaking out, dude. It was awesome.
Somebody texted me, you look disgusting on that announcer cam. I'm like, dude, I was surprised, right? I'm not thinking about the camera in my face.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations to all the winners. Needless to say, a most memorable night at UFC 316 from Merab Dvalishvili, KAYLA Harrison, and everybody else. And again, our apologies to Joshua Van and Mario Bautista for the technical difficulties today. All right. Pronunciation of the week is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. Get unlimited data. That won't slow you down. Kind of want BP to do this one.
Ooh, okay.
This man's still getting it done at 38 years of age, by the way, with his dad not too far off to the side. He's 8-4 in the UFC after a big upset of Peyton Talbot earlier this year at UFC 311. Born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Bri, we'll go to you first, and then we'll hear Ken Flo say it. But what's this guy's name?
Yeah, so Kenny's gonna nail this, but I believe it's Hony Barcelos, and you got to use the little extra tongue on the end of there. Hony Barcelos.
So, but why you don't have a lisp? Why you?
No, that's how you pronounce it in Portuguese, bro.
You have to inject a speech impediment into it?
Yeah. I'm surprised you to know. You're the linguist. I'm surprised you didn't know that, dude. That's crazy, John.
Kenny, how do you say that name?
See, now I'm like second guessing myself. Do I go Howny, or is it Howny Barcelos? Or you can say Barcelo.
I could listen to you all day, Kenny.
With the Rio accent.
Barcelo. Yeah, with that regionalism. Let's hear Howny say his name.
Howny Barcelos. Howny Barcelos.
So we do go with that surname regionalism with the Barcelos, I
like it.
We don't do Deutsch Anjos or Dos Anjos for Dos Anjos, but that's because that's not how he says it to tape. So we also, Bri.
Yeah.
Who's Joaquin Buckley fighting this weekend, Bri?
Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, so pretty good. So this was one we battled with early on because he really says Usman, like M-I-N. It's not Usman or, he says Usman. So we're going to rack that file for you as well because it is definitely M-I-N. Go ahead, Cody.
I'm Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman.
One more time slot.
And that's Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman.
For much of his career, Buffer would go, Kamaru! And then Kamaru was like, no, bro, my daughter's pissed.
Isn't his full name like Kamara Dean? Isn't that like his? Yeah, okay. That's right.
Yeah. All right, time to make some selections. Time permitting, we might even get to some wagers and update the standings. Just kidding. Of course, we're going to get to that stuff. Light heavyweight division, main card opener, UFC Fight Night, Usman versus Buckley live at Atlanta, Georgia. Umar C, minus 575, taking on Alonzo Menafield, plus 425. Bryce C, light heavyweight out of Paris, France, 11-0 after a win over Dawoon Jung last September. Also got Tuco Tuckus with a neck crank in his UFC debut last May. Schedule suggests pretty strong pre-UFC run as well. Now Jaws, the former Arena League football player and hardened UFC veteran Alonzo Menafield, who is set for his 16th UFC start. BP, take it away.
Yeah, this has been a tough one because the numbers, I think, are a little out of whack. I think C is a good up-and-coming guy. I think he's got some skills to his game. I think he's got some grappling. I think he's got some striking. He's a big, strong dude, but he's green, right? He's still green. The Dong Jun fight was a big win for him. Dong Jun's no punk. But Menesfield, Zoe, as I call him, we're good friends. Zoe went out there and looked really good against, Julius Walker and stopped a lot of takedowns and is now back in Texas. Went away, went Pat Barry for a while. Now he's back. And I think that's a big key to this. Menefield got knocked out twice and then got back on the track with Walker. And you were mentioning Azat Mirzakhanov. He had a 700 next to his name, and rightfully so, and he looked like that. C's got minus 575 next to his name. I don't know if he's going to look as a 575. I think this fight is closer on paper, closer than the line suggests. I think people are sleeping on Menefield because of maybe some lackluster takedown offense in the past, right? Jimmy Crute took him down 6 times. I'm riding with Zoe here. That's a big number at plus 425. I'm going to take the 4-1 guy, the more experienced guy, the guy who hits heavy as well. We'll see what happens. I'm willing to roll the dice on a 4-1 for sure.
Nicely handicapped as usual, Bri. Menafield, Ken Flo coming off a split win over Julius Walker in February, but that did come on the back end of back-to-back knockout losses to Carlos Ulberg and Azamat Mirzakhanov in 2024. He will be 38 in October. Perhaps that age factors into the line here. What do you make of light heavyweights, Ken Flo?
Yeah, it does for me. Umar C, he's only 29 years old, undefeated, but, only 2 fights in the UFC, undefeated in the UFC, of course. But, I do think he's still a little bit green. And as far as betting on Menafield, he could show up hot. He could show up cold. It's really difficult to know which Alonzo Menafield is going to show up. So I absolutely see the value in your guy Zoe there, Brian. But I'm going to go with C. I think I think his youth, I think his striking, I think his athleticism could get it done here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Menifeld get the job done. Definitely some value, but I'm going to go with the Frenchman here.
All right, big number on this next one as well. Mansour Abdul Malik, -700, taking on Cody Brundage, +500 on the comeback. So the Eric Nixick trained Malik, biggest betting favorite on the card, BP.
Mm-hmm.
Price gets bigger every goddamn time I go into that DraftKings Sportsbook application, actually. He's 8-0 overall, trying to move to 3-0 in the UFC here with a win over Brundage. BP, your thoughts?
So everything I said about C being green and all that and more experience, take that breakdown out the window because I'm going with the green guy here. Malik is a well put together guy, right? When I walk the beach, when I strut the beach, in my head I look like Malik, but really it's Roy Nelson. You know what I mean? But no, this kid's really good. I love Eric Nixick's good coach. He's a really good guy to be with from the beginning to, because the guy has a wealth of knowledge. He knows how to produce really top level fighters, especially in Vegas too. I mean, everyone comes in there and trains. Malik is only going to get better and better. His UFC record, he's 3-0 with 3 knockouts. They're not world beaters, the guys he beat, but he's done what he's supposed to do is knock him out. You got Cody Brundage, you can grapple a little bit, right? And he's got some hands, experience in UFC, but the weakness is his striking. The weakness is when the tough gets going. When he's not doing what he wants to do, he kind of falters a little bit. This is a huge number. How you going to play this? You're going to go Malik by KO, which DraftKings will probably get us at -250. Then you're going to parlay that to something juicier. But yeah, I like Malik here. I'm all over this kid. I think he's powerful. I think he's too athletic. I think he's going to be really special if he keeps doing what he's doing. Yeah, I like Malik.
Cody Brundage, Ken Flo, enters this competition after one of the bigger wins of his career came against his former teammate Julian Marquez, but he's 5-5 with a no contest in the UFC. So the winning percentage in the UFC is 50%. It's actually below that, I guess. He fought Bo Nickel at UFC 300 last year as well. So another big spot as massive underdog for Brundage. You think he has anything for Malik, Ken Flo?
Yeah, Cody's had some tough fights in the UFC. He's got another one here, though, against Sir Abdul Malik. And I think Malik is special. He's certainly gifted. And if he's putting in the work, which I think he is, and he's putting, he's surrounding himself with the right guys, with the right sparring partners, with the right coaches, I think this should be a pretty good win for him. I like him here a lot. I think he's one of those guys that, if you don't know about him, you should be watching and following him, because I do think he could do some big things in the middleweight division. So, I think this is a good fight for him. So give me Mansour Abdul Malik.
All right, next up on the main card in Atlanta this weekend, live on ESPN in the Bantamweight division, HIGH-OCTANE BARCELOS -162, Cody Garbrandt +136. Garbrandt, as many of you know, the former undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion, just 9-6 overall in the UFC. He hasn't fought since a submission loss to Davison Figueiredo. Bry, that was at UFC 300 last April. Now he draws the also tested Barcelos, flying high, of course, after the Talbot win. He had a perfect 2-0 2024. Slightly favored here against Cody Garbrandt. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is scary for me, right? Because I'm a Cody guy, I'm an Ohio guy, right? And Barcelos, this guy, everyone keeps talking about his age, but he just went out there and dog walked Peyton Talbot, who's an undefeated fighter. I mean, he looked great. His wrestling is really good. His entries are really good. He's been clipped in the past. Umar got him a little bit ago, but he's fighting high level guys. Early in his career, we didn't see him enough. Now he's really ramping up. I like that. Cody's been away forever, but man, I can't get, it's like a girl that you had a summer fling with that you fucking can't get. It's been 10 years. Get over it. I can't. Cody versus Dominic Cruz, one of the best performances I've ever seen. Round 1, Cody versus TJ Dillashaw, one of the best performances I've ever seen. I need that guy back. That's who I need back. You know what I mean? He left. He's been in Vegas. He left Alpha Male, but he got exposed by Figgy on the ground. We never seen an Alpha Male guy like a guy like Cody get put on the ground. His scrambling was so good. He always got this. He got put down. He got choked out pretty easy. Barcelos can do that. But I'm down my mortgage in this game, so I need to start picking dogs. I'm gonna go my Ohio boy Cody Garbrandt. Hopefully he uses his footwork, his speed, clips Barcelos early, and we get it out of there. We get a dub. Give me Cody Garbrandt. Not super confident, but I'll take my guy.
Ken Flo, for Cody Garbrandt, just 3 wins in the 9 years since that win against Dominic Cruz. He is 3-5 over the last 8.5 years since defeating Dominic Cruz for the title in 2016. He is +136 this weekend against Rio's HIGH-OCTANE Barcelos.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with you, man. He went from one of the most brilliant
and Ken Flo's frozen
to one of the worst.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now, buddy. You were spinning for a second. Now fucking Bry's spinning, but I hear you now.
There we go. All right, there we go. Yeah, he went from one of the most brilliant performances against Dominic Cruz that you talked about, Brian, to one of the worst ones. And I think since then, his mind game has been off completely, and it's tough to know what Cody Garbrandt is going to show up as well. We were just talking about Metafield, but, for Cody, with all of that talent and all of that finishing ability, it's hard to know. But I think that if his wrestling is on point, if he did his homework there, if he did his homework striking, he comes in here mentally strong, I think he can win this fight, and I like him in this underdog spot as well. So give me Cody Garbrandt.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Middleweight division. Edmund Shabazian minus 192. Andre Petroski plus 160. So Petroski's won 3 in a row, Bri. Granted, all by unanimous decision, but he got past Adolfo Vieira back in February. Now probably facing the best striker, I would think, of this UFC run to date, the former ranked contender Edmund Shabazian. Bri, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this line seemed off when I first looked at it. I said, why is Shabazian, who seems to kind of, when he gets these big fights, seem flat? But he's such a killer striker, and Petroski's been exposed. I mean, Malkoun knocked out, Petroski on the feet. Petroski is one of a specialist in the game. There's not many left. He likes to grapple. He makes no bones about it. He's a big, strong middleweight that likes to take you down, and Shabazian has been exposed on the ground as well, usually when he gets tired. But you look at the GM3 fight, Shabazian fucked up GM3, and GM3 is just an old dog that don't quit. Came back, got him once he was tired. I don't think Petroski can take those shots Edmund does. However, pulling a Kenny Florian here, babe, I need dogs, and I need a guy that I think could win when he gets it to the ground. I think stylistically, if he can take this fight to the ground, if he doesn't play stand-up game, which I seriously doubt he will, because this guy is a pure grappler. Even outside the UFC, he does grappling events and everything. I think he can win this fight. I think he can take him. I think he submit Shabazian. I think Shabazian is 56% takedown defense, isn't the best in the UFC. He's fought some decent wrestlers, but yeah, give me Petroski here, man. I got to take some dogs, and he's my guy.
Ken Flo, Edmund Shabazian minus 192, Andre Petroski plus 160. Who do you love?
So I think Shabazian, if he gets off to a good start and lands some big shots, I think he can knock out Petroski for sure. And Shabazian, has a tendency of starting out really well. It doesn't finish so well, though. And for Petroski, sometimes he falls in love with his striking a little bit and decides to get a little too comfortable on the feet. He's got to head into this fight knowing he's the better grappler and knowing Shabazian's history and being vulnerable on his back. So Petroski, if he can go in there, initiate his striking into some takedowns and clinches, I think Petroski can win this fight as well. So I like Petroski here.
All right, let's get to the co-main event, women's flyweight division. Did somebody in Miranda Maverick's lineage change the last name to Maverick from something else, or is she just born Maverick and everybody? Yeah, I mean, that's a cool family name, right?
Yeah, it is.
So she just adopted a baby girl and named her Renegade Maverick.
Ooh.
Whoa.
I mean, you want to talk about a power name? Her daughter's name is fucking Renegade Maverick.
That's a power.
Beautiful baby
That's
girl.
Redundancy.
That is. So co-main event, guys. Rose Namajunas minus 285. Renegade's mom Miranda is plus 230. Miranda Maverick still just 27. She's really found her footing since that tough loss to Jasmine Jasudavicius, 4 in a row, landing her in this co-main event with the future Hall of Famer Thug Rose. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, Maverick had a lot of hype coming to UFC. She was in that one night tournament, which she impressed everybody. Came to UFC, kind of on fire, then stumbled a little bit, and hasn't really looked. I mean, she's winning fights, but she's not finishing fights. I think when she moved to Colorado, she really well rounded out her game. But as the competition gets tougher, I don't see a lot of finishes. She's well built for the division. Her takedowns are good. But then to Rose Namajunas, who it's hard to find a woman in MMA with a better resume than Rose. Right? Rose, a former champion, has fought everyone. Stumbled against Erin Blanchfield her last time out, which obviously Blanchfield has a similar game to Maverick. It really depends on, because they're different body types, really depends on what Rose learned from that. What kind of takedowns defense does she have? She only got taken down twice by Blanchfield, but she just wasn't active enough on the feet. I like that Rose, for a while there when she was champion and the whole bustlessness, she might have not fought anymore. It's like, I might be done with the sport. Now she went up a weight and she's fighting often. And we're getting that Thug Rose back. We're getting the Emerald back. We're getting the tough, bad bitch back. And I like that. I think Maverick matches up well with her in the grappling, but I think it's going to come down to striking. I think Maverick likes to take people down off the cage. I think Rose is going to defend that really well. I think Rose is a good guard. I think Rose scrambles really well off her back as well when she needs to get up. I think Miranda Maverick, in the fights I've seen, she kind of loses some of those scrambles, just a little step behind. And I think the stand up, I think it's all Rose. I think she's clean. I think she hits hard. I like Rose here. I'm fine with the number. I'm fine putting this in any kind of parlay you want. I'm pretty bullish on Thug Rose for sure.
Ken Flo Thug Rose Namajunas turns 33 on June 29th. She did fight 3 times last year, went 2-1, lost the 5-rounder on the back end of the year, of course, against Aaron Blanchfield. Now right back on the horse against a former training partner in Miranda Maverick. Who do you like?
If Rose is on top of her game, I think she can absolutely win this fight. She has the talent, she has the experience, and she has the skills both on the feet and on the ground to win it here. And I agree with Brian. Up against the cage, I think that's where Rose does her best, takedown defense. And the open mat, and the open cage, that's where she can maybe struggle a little bit. I think that's where Miranda needs to kind of take this fight. Even with that, I think Miranda can still win this fight. I think that she can build off of what Blanchfield did in that last one. But she's going to have to stay busy. She's going to have to keep a lot of pressure on Rose Namajunas and really just get her out of her rhythm. If Namajunas gets in her rhythm, that's where Rose can really take over and build on her confidence and pick Maverick apart, especially on the feet. I think Rose is the better striker here. But Maverick has a ton of momentum. Rose 2-2 in the last 4 fights, Maverick 4-0 in the last 4 fights. So typically you see them kind of match up, records a little bit more appropriately here, but I like Maverick here. I think Maverick can get it done. It seems like they see some potential here the UFC sees Maverick with a lot of potential here, and they think they can build up, someone who can maybe challenge for the belt in the future. So I'm going to go with Maverick here, as tough as that is. I'm a big fan of Rose, but I think maybe it's Maverick's time.
Thanks. Valuable information on both sides as we get to the main event in the welterweight division. Joaquin Numansa Buckley, modest 265. The Nigerian Nightmare Kamaru Usman comes back plus 215. Numansa Bry has not won 3 in a row or 4 in a row or 5 in a row. 6 in a row for Numansa. 4-0 last year. Back-to-back stoppages of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Colby Covington to close out 2024. And now can set up a title shot if he can get past a, hopefully in his mind, resurgent returning Kamaru Usman. Who do you have in the main event, BP?
I love this fight. Atlanta, the entire Atlanta card's great. This is a great card for Atlanta this weekend. My in-laws live there. If I wish I could pop down. Anyway, love this fight. I'm an Usman guy, right? I've defended Usman a lot. There's a lot of chatter about him being this. I think he's the second greatest welterweight that's ever fought in the UFC, right? Right behind Georges St. Pierre. And I think he's a legit dude. I think, 3 in a row losses. I thought he looked really spirited. And, because look at his losses. Let's just break it down, right? The Leon Edwards, he was winning, got head kicked. And the second fight was very close, majority decision loss. In the Chimaev fight, he didn't start fighting to the 3rd round, majority decision loss. Time away, but he's getting older. There's rumors about some bum knees, all this stuff. And enter Numansa, who is undefeated at 170 and has looked unreal. I'm all in on this guy. I love his mindset. He talks a lot, but he backs it up. He wants to fight. He wants to get better. He's traveled to the United States to get better. Spent time with Craig Jones down at the B team to get better with his jiu-jitsu, get better off top. His wrestling has looked really good. He wrestled really well against Nursultan Rozaboyev. That was a great, really good defining win for a guy who's 6'8" in that division, right, at 170. Buckley is the more explosive, more potent striker, and Usman just knows how to win. He knows how to grind. He knows how to do it. He's mentally strong. He's a guy that doesn't really lose a lot, right? He's not used to it, even though there's 3 in a row. And it's hard for me to imagine there's going to be 4 red stripes on his record. Kamaru Usman, 4 in a row. What are you doing? But I think that's what's going to happen. I think Numansa is too much. I think he's too strong. He's coming off 2 third-round knockouts. So that proves to me this guy in the Steve Wonderboy fight, it was competitive. He was getting shots. He was taking shots. He came back, knocked him out. He was all over Colby Covington the entire time. This guy with the big muscles, with cutting to 170, still has cardio, explosive in the 3rd round. I think that speaks volumes. I think Kamaru Usman is hittable. He does get hit a lot, especially in the exchanges. I think the wrestling is going to wash each other out. I'm all over Numansa here, man. I think this guy's going to be really interesting to watch here at 170.
Yeah, Kenny, of all the top welterweight contenders in terms of natural power in both hands and feet, Joaquin Buckley would seem to have the most of it. He just turned 31 in April, debuted during the global pandemic, got stopped by Kevin Holland, and then memorably 2 months later, that knockout of Impa Kasanganay, one of the top 5 knockouts in UFC history. Yeah. But now big things, trying to really assert himself with a win over the former champion, Kamaru Usman. How do you see the main event going down, kid?
This is a tough one for me. I think that Buckley, you look at his pedigree, the last 4 fights where he's 4-0, Colby, Wonderboy, Ruzaboyev, Luque, these are really tough guys. And Buckley's looking fantastic and has a ton of momentum heading into this fight against Usman, who also has had some, tough competition, as Brian was talking about, but he's 1-3, and it's hard to know where Usman is at in his career. Is this a guy who is, fighting just to stay busy? What has he been doing as far as staying active over the last year or so? It's hard to tell. With Buckley, we know exactly where his head is at. He wants to fight. He wants the belt. He's looking better and better. I think he has a lot of momentum heading into this fight. So while I'm going to pick Buckley here, I think Usman does have a shot here. Why do I keep saying Usman, by the way? We just said Usman. So I think that Usman is definitely going to be I think there's a lot of value for Kamaru, but give me Buckley.
Fascinating main event in Atlanta, Georgia, and our good friend, the greatest living American, Brian Stan, will be in the building to witness it all. All right, time now to place your bets. Brought to you by KennyFlorian.com and JonAnik.com, where you can get 15% off your Anik and Florian podcast or One More Sleep merchandise order with promo code One More Sleep. All right. I'm not saying you got to wave the white flag, Brian.
No,
but I think some 3-leg parlays for $1,000 might be useful if we're really trying to win this thing. Now, it's one thing if you're trying to make the listenership money, but if you're trying to beat Ken Flo, which is the goal, we might have to start taking some chances. Here are these statistics. You put your $3,000 stack on Patchy Mix.
Did I?
Drops you to minus $11,819.96 on the year. And unfortunately for you, I guess, Florian continued his torrid 2025. $1,000 for Ken Flo straight on Kevin Holland, that page at 420, interestingly enough. And then the $2,000 3-leg parlay on Mirzakhanov, Pfeiffer, and Harrison came in as well, that page at 1440. So plus 1860 and change for Ken Flo on the week. The Team Florian lead after a week north of $4,200 for Ken Flo. The lead is now $16,000 or so. Brian, you have $1,000 to spend.
Sure
you can do it.
What do you have for us, Brian, on UFC Fight Night Buckley v. Usman?
So listen, my 2 3K bets this year were Steele. He didn't grapple. Mix thought he was going to grapple, didn't grapple. Right. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the well with a guy that I think needs to grapple to win because I don't learn my lesson. I'm stupid. Give me $1,000 on Petrovsky. I need to take dogs. I need to, you know what I mean? I was going to parlay him with Cody. I was going to do maybe another parlay. I'm a straight wager guy. I don't think we're at the parlay portion of this yet. Give me $1,000 on Petrovsky, maybe almost double my money. And that way we can start moving from there. I just need a W, right? Let's go, Petrovsky. Yeah. Let's grapple, babe. Let's grapple a little bit, Bob. All right. Need it.
Kenny, you are at $4,202.80 to the positive for the year. How are you spending your $1,000 this weekend?
Oh, I'm gonna go with $750 on Cody Garbrandt.
Wow.
And then I'm gonna put $250 on the mother of Renegade Rebel Maverick.
Oh shit!
So Ken Flo, a couple of dogs.
Love it, man.
Cody Garbrandt and Miranda Maverick. If you want more from Brian Petrie, at Brian Petrie MMA, host of the MMA Takes podcast. Looking good, little sunsplash today, brother. We appreciate your time, and we will talk to you next Monday, if not sooner, bro.
See ya, boys. I'll see ya.
There's the great chief handicapper, Brian Petrie. And we got to bounce on out of here, but not before thanking the undisputed UFC Bantamweight champion, Merab Dvalishvili, for joining us. Also, thanks to Ray Longo. Thanks to Mario Bautista and Joshua Van for trying to get in here. Weren't allowed in the room. Our sincere apologies. That's going to eat away at me all day, but hopefully we'll talk to those gentlemen later in the week and bring you some more bonus content for UFC 316. Thanks to our producer, Cody Merrow. Ken Flo, best of luck. I can't wait to see you next week. Safe travels home. Thanks for powering through the international Wi-Fi, and we will talk to everybody either later this week or on Monday, and we'll see if new Mansa Joaquin Buckley has indeed made it 7 wins in a row. Thank you all for watching live, if that applies. For Cam Flom, Jon Anik, we'll talk to you next Monday. Until then, be well, be safe. Yo later.
I love this shit.